Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Prime News. A little late night edition tonight. Just had a lot going on today, and it is what it is. That being said, I want to remind everyone that if you would like to win a free Nintendo Switch with a copy of Super Smash Bros. With the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Nintendo Switch, we are giving one away. That is right. There's a Gleam.io link down in the description to enter. Absolutely free, and good luck. Now, that being said, let's talk about today's news, and we're going to be leading off with the story that we've been covering consistently over the past week or so, and that is Telltale Games and what's happening with the final season of The Walking Dead. They pulled it down off the Nintendo Switch eShop and other digital storefronts, including Steam and Xbox Live and PlayStation Network. Well, it turns out they have reached an agreement with Skybound Games. Now, this is the interesting point, and I think maybe the only legit way to see this go forward. Telltale Games is going to have zero involvement with the development of the rest of the chapters of this game. In fact, Skybound Games is handling literally everything, and it was announced by Skybound Games that they will be hiring on staff from the original team, members of the original team that were working on these chapters already, chapters 3 and 4 of the final chapter, final season, final whatever of The Walking Dead. So what's nice about this is, one, it's a company that is trustworthy to actually pay their employees, so you know they're going to get paid for their work. That's the big thing. And two, you know they're going to probably treat these employees way better than Telltale Games ever did. Telltale essentially sold the rights off to the final chapter of this, to a trustworthy company that's going to work with the original team to get it done. This, to me, was the only solution that made sense, because who really trusted Telltale Games to take someone else's money and finish this project off and treat the employees well? Do those employees even want to attempt to trust Telltale Games to pay them to do it? Again, this to me was the only way forward, and I am happy that this is the resolution. Now we'll just have to wait and see what happens. From what it sounds like, Chapter 3 was almost done as is, and everything for story-wise was set up for the final chapter. So we'll just have to wait and see how this plays out. I don't expect to see anything till some point in 2019. But again, I'm happy for the team that worked on the Walking Dead series to get a chance to finish off what they started with a trustworthy company that's going to pay the employees. I'm sure Telltale Games still gets some sort of cut of the sales of the game, but whatever. This is probably the best case to me feeling comfortable buying the final season anyways, and not worrying that people weren't paid to finish it off. Next up, we have a great story, or an interesting one. Okami. You guys know Okami. We just had the HD version, landed on Switch. It was on other systems, etc. It was originally like PS2, and it came to GameCube. Whatever. Okami, right? Fantastic video game. It just got another Guinness World Record. It got one way back in like 2006. And it has another one today. And this one, oh Nelly, this one is an interesting one. Essentially, it is now in the Guinness World Record books for the most critically acclaimed video game starring an animal character. I think this is very interesting because Nintendo's history is chock full of video games starring animal characters. Star Fox, Donkey Kong, just to name a couple big ones there. How about Animal Crossing? Then again, I understand disconnecting from Animal Crossing because it's a world full of animals versus the main character being an animal. So I get that Animal Crossing might not be considered, but I mean, Conker's Bad Fur Day, hello? Literally an animal right there. I don't know. To me, this feels like a lot of it. And it's not even this, like Crash Bandicoot, Sonic the Hedgehog. I mean, there's so many great IPs featuring animals over the years that this is not me insulting Okami in any way. Absolutely fantastic. Just why now in 2018 is this game being recognized as the most critically acclaimed games with starring an animal when there's other games starring animals that have higher critical acclaim according to GameRankings.com and Metacritic, including several of the franchises I already mentioned. It's very weird to me, and I know there's a lot of criteria to actually qualify for the Guinness Book of World Records, where you might look in the Guinness Book of World Records and there's actually people who have beaten those records. They just didn't qualify for various reasons, not having secondhand sources on things, and it feels almost like an empty reward in my opinion. This isn't me insulting Okami. It's just there's so many games that star animals that I just don't understand why in 2018 a game from like almost 2 decades ago is being rewarded when there's been games that are more highly critically acclaimed than this that star animals. Feels strange, but you know what? I mean, it gets Okami back in the news, and that's a good thing, right? It's 2018, and I get to talk about the Power Glove. No, I don't have one to use for a prop. I'm sorry. So the Power Glove was this controller device that came out on the NES many, many years ago. And it enabled motion controls, to be fair, to replace button presses and stuff in many games. And there were a few Power Glove games that allowed actual motion controls. It was kind of cool, never really worked as well as the concept hoped, but maybe that's because the concept was never actually meant to be an alternative NES controller. In fact, according to Marty Abrams, who worked on the project, the Power Glove was actually meant to be part of a larger virtual reality system that had a full headset that went over your eyes. Now, you remember Nintendo actually had such a thing in the works before they went with Virtual Boy. Maybe this was related to that. Maybe it was an entirely separate thing. We're not sure, but the Power Glove was just supposed to be a control input method for that. And obviously that fell through and never became a thing. They licensed technology from MIT to make the glove work, and it just ultimately had too much overhead, too much cost, and eventually the project was dropped in terms of virtual reality. But Nintendo did still officially license the product, and it ended up being made anyways, and as I said, it just did not work as well as people hoped. That doesn't mean it wasn't a success, however. I believe within like the first month of it being on the market, it had sold 650,000 units worldwide. I'm not sure if it ever really cracked 1 million, and obviously the opinion on the Power Glove, even with the movie adaptation featuring it, just kind of went down the drain because the actual use case for the Power Glove turned out to be maybe the most gimmicky of gimmicky, or like too far ahead of its time. Maybe the technology just wasn't ready yet. Obviously, we saw motion controls come back with Nintendo through the Wii, so it's not as if Nintendo abandoned the concept of motion controls. It's just the Power Glove wasn't there. I mean, moving your fingers and doing different motions with your fingers, would create different button presses and different actions. There was a fully functioning NES controller with other alternative buttons on it. It was a crazy concept that ultimately didn't work as well as maybe they hoped it would in the final product stage, and that's because that really wasn't supposed to be the use for the product in the first place. But hey, it's part of gaming history, it's part of gaming lore, and I hope one day I add a Power Glove, the large version that fit my hands, to my collection. In indie game news, yes, indie game news. Since when do we cover indie games on Prime News? When I feel like it. And when it has to do with guacamole, melee, I don't know. I honestly always thought it was guacamole, but then it's not really spelled the same. So, whatever. The very first game in that series is out on Switch today. The second game, which came out on other platforms earlier, Guacamole 2, will be arriving on Switch later this year. So cool. Out of nowhere, surprise announcement. Dropped a high-quality indie game with the sequel coming later. All right, cool. Another port, but a high-quality port, and it's arrived today, and they didn't do any hype cycle to do it. It's just, hey, it's here, so go play it, please, if you haven't. It's a Metroidvania-style game. One of the best. Go, now. Seriously. And for the last topic today, we're going to be talking about the Nintendo Switch S. Wait, S? Is that like the Xbox One X? Or Xbox One S? Or what are we talking about here? Well, I'm just going to come out right and say it. This rumor's fake. And it's fake because it's coming from Marcus Sellers. We've talked about him in the past. He's the only source I've seen. Everyone seems to be referencing him, and it's fake. But I'm going to talk about it anyways because I really, really want what Marcus is talking about to be true. Now, I don't care about the S name, right? He's basically saying the new Switch next year will be called the Nintendo Switch S. Complete BS. Marcus has been debunked many times. But what I do think is interesting is that he mentioned something about how Nintendo plans to refresh the Switch every 3 years. I think that's actually a very smart move, and that's something I suggested Nintendo would do as far back as last year. So I actually really like that idea. I know a lot of you don't like that idea, but whatever. I think it's mobile technology. They need to keep pace. If they don't keep pace, they're going to end up with dated hardware that doesn't last as long as they would like it to do. Even home consoles. I mean, look, we got the S, which was slightly more powerful than the Xbox, and then Xbox One, and now we got the X. Like, Microsoft did it. Sony's doing it. Why should Nintendo not do it when they've done similar things with the DS and 3DS as well, with the DSi and the new Nintendo 3DS? And this is before you get into other versions of the DS and DSi as well, or when they've done like Game Boy, Game Boy Light, Game Boy Pocket, Game Boy Color, all that stuff. Like Nintendo's done these things over the years, especially with handheld devices. I'd like to see them kind of push it forward with a home console hybrid type as well. Why not? I mean, no one's forcing it. As long as all the games are playable on all versions of the Switch, it really shouldn't be that big of a deal. But that's my 2 cents on that. Again, this is a rumor that's been flying around the internet today. And again, I'm here to tell you it's not true. I 100% do not believe Marcus Sellers. I have not heard anyone that I actually trust with rumor information coming out and being like, yeah, this is a thing. But yeah, and again, he threw out some hypothetical specs that are not final, and I'm not even going to bother to touch them because he literally believes anyone who DMs him on Twitter without verifying. So, all right, folks, that's going to do it. Thanks for tuning in to a short but fun episode of Prime News. I can't wait to live stream later. Is it weird I'm excited about live streaming? I don't know. Don't even know what I'm streaming yet. Whatever, I'll see you guys there. Like the video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, subscribe for more content, hit that bell icon to make sure you have a higher chance of being notified of new uploads and live streams, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.